Welcome back, one and all, to Mystic Radio. I am your host, Spirit Lady Robin Alexis. Remember, Mystic Radio is always an experience, not an explanation. It is up to you to discern if what you hear rings true to you or not. We are not telling you what to think. We are just encouraging you to know, trust, and act upon your own knowing. So, what is so intriguing that I started to bring back Mystic Radio? Extraterrestrials, UFOs, other spirits, and my new special guest, Ken Sylvester. Here is how we met. I wrote an Amazon best-selling book called A Conversation with Extraterrestrials. I wanted to learn more about other authors who wrote about UFOs. So I bought Amazon best-selling book, We're Not Alone, and Here's the Proof, by Ken Sylvester. My mind was blown reading this book, and frequently the ETs that he was writing about would begin to speak with me telepathically. I was able to acquire Ken's phone number, and after he graciously returned my call, I realized that our conversations with each other were so literally out of this world that I knew that the Mystic Radio community would love to hear them. So, to keep up with these out-of-the-world conversations with Ken and I, we're going to refer you to our books. If you want to learn more about Ken's book, please go to Amazon and search for the book, We're Not Alone, and Here's the Proof, by Ken Sylvester. There are other authors named Ken Sylvester, so be sure and look for We're Not Alone, and Here's the Proof, by Ken Sylvester. And to learn more about my book, search on Amazon or wherever you get your books, with Extraterrestrials by Robin Alexis. And now, here is our special guest, Ken. Welcome, Ken.
Welcome to you, Robin, and thanks for that introduction. I'd like today to just start with a brief opening statement. And I first want to address all the Star Trek fans out there and tell you to censor your computer for stun. And everyone else, are you ready to hear some ultra top secrets I recently uncovered that have never been broadcast or published before, and after today may give me a visit from the Men in Black? First, what I'd like to do is review something we covered last week, how our government decides if a spacecraft is non-human. They have a criteria set up that they call the observables, and there are 6 of them. These observables were developed by a UFO researcher himself, Lou Elizondo, and the rest of the team at what's known as ATIP, a government acronym for Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. It's a lot to swallow. This is the guide used to identify spaceship and other flying objects that defy our laws of gravity as we currently know them. In this book and in this broadcast, we're going to address only spacecraft. The stories in this book are called UFOs, unidentified flying objects. Many are more than 50 years old, but still today they have not identified the crafts going back and looking at the pictures from 50 years ago. Now, the observables that they use, and this can work for all you out there when you're observing a UFO to see if it is a non-human UFO, it needs one of these 6, and most of them have more than one. The first one is called anti-gravity. It's the ability of a craft to fly without means of propulsion. So no trails, no exhaust. So like when you see an airplane fly in the sky, and especially on a blue day, you see that white smoky trail. These have no such trail. The second one is called instantaneous acceleration, the ability of the craft to reach a high rate of speed in a short period of time, from 0 to 20,000 miles per hour in seconds. Number 3 is the hypersonic, the ability of the craft to reach speeds of over 3,700 miles per hour, which is 5 times the speed of light, and that exceeds Mach 5. The fourth one is the low observatory, the ability of the craft to conceal itself from radar through stealth flying, flying under the radar, or something we haven't developed yet as far as we know, cloaking. The fifth is called transmedium, the ability of the craft to seamlessly move through space, air, and water. So they can fly in and out of the water without changing speed. And the sixth one, which was added later, called biological effects, the ability of the craft or its occupants to affect the health of humans it comes in contact with. The craft has also been known to affect both humans and mechanical devices, especially electronic. They sometimes just don't work because of the EMGs that are emitted. The observables are proof that they are alien spacecraft, in my opinion. The main reason is because even if we were to advance our technology to be able to perform as they have, our human body could not survive the impact of the G-force created by these maneuvers. So when we do achieve this technology, we must also find a way to adapt the human body to survive. Now, I wanted to cover the history of UFOs, how it got its start, and where it is today. Originally, I watched hundreds of episodes of Ancient Aliens. And Ancient Aliens did a study of UFOs going back thousands of years. And there are hundreds of episodes depicting what they found. They show evidence that aliens have been visiting us for thousands of years. With no cameras, they discovered what are known as pictograms. These are pictures drawn on cave walls, stone mountains, carved, etched into the side of the mountains, walls. Some of these pictures look like today's UFOs. Also, the show looks to be, they show what looks to be a pilot inside the UFO. Most of these look non-human. They are all over the world. When you compare them, most look the same in Egypt as they do in Peru and even in the United States. So all the pictograms around the world seem to pretty much match, as if they might have been visited by the same aliens. There are also statues and structures, and of course the Great Pyramids. They all defy explanation. They needed advanced technology to build. So how did these primitives achieve this? Did they have help from aliens? Ancient alien theorists believe that's exactly what happened.
And obviously you do too.
Yes, because it's convinced me enough that I wanted to, write the book, but I wanted to do a more updated version where it was easier to prove, because we now have actual pictures versus taking someone to look at a cave and then it's an interpretation as to what that could be. Of course, the same is still happening. Even though we have pictures and videos, they're still not able to identify them, even with modern technology. So they call them now UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, but to me, that's still unidentified flying object.
So, Ken, I really, really like that you started out with talking about the observables, because maybe part of the reason why it gets debunked is because people haven't had the information about the observable criteria to ascertain if what they're seeing is an actual UFO or not. So other than your book and you talking about it, how commonly exposed is that information for the common public to have?
Well, unless they've read the book or read anything about Lou Elizondo, it's not a secret. It's just not something that I've seen ever discussed, even when they have these hearings in Congress. The observables have not been defined.
Well, I'm thrilled that you have written about it in your book. And again, his book is We're Not Alone, and Here's the Proof. And he's talking about it right here on Mystic Radio. So for those of you who have seen them, or you're looking up into the sky to start seeing them, you have the information about the observables. And if you do see anything, we want you to contact us, because we would like to have you as a guest on our show. And so then you were talking about the history of UFOs, how it goes all the way back globally to pictograms and things written or painted or whatever in caves and statues and the Great Pyramid. I mean, it's been around for so long, and yet it's debunked.
Yes, some of it's been debunked, and the rest, there just is no way to prove it. Now, for those of people out there that are new and never even heard of a UFO, which I ask a few younger generation people that live in my senior community, and some of them never even heard of the UFO. And It really started at Roswell when the first reported UFO was called a flying saucer. And the government put that out. They said they had a flying saucer that crashed at Roswell. So it became known shortly after that as unidentified flying objects.
What state is Roswell in?
Roswell is in New Mexico. And it's near Los Angeles, where they tested out the nuclear bombs and where the nuclear bomb was developed, in the deserts within 30, 40 miles. And this is what most theorized attracted the aliens, to see that we now had nuclear power, and they wanted to find out, it seems like, more about us and what we were going to do with these nuclear bombs, which they knew were extremely powerful. And actually, even before Roswell, there were two major sightings. One was by a guy named Kenneth Arnold. He was a pilot that saw, about 10 days before Roswell, saw 9 UFOs as he was flying near Mount Rainier. And also, even some of the locals, the days before Roswell and the crash, had spotted UFOs.
Where did that information go?
That has not been included in most of the research I found. They skipped that over. But I did find one article that had said that there was reports of UFOs. And the government reported flying saucers had crashed first in this story, and then they forced the paper, and it was in the paper, the government recovers flying saucer at Roswell, and the next day they forced the paper to retract that story and say this was not a flying saucer, it was just a weather balloon. Now, if you are new and you haven't heard of Roswell, here's a brief explanation. First, there are more books that have been written about Roswell than any other UFO story. Roswell, as I mentioned, is located in New Mexico and close to our nuke bases. And again, we think this is what may have attracted to them. And now I'd like to bring you an updated version of what really happened at Roswell, the facts, the truth. With the help of research, I've uncovered some new secrets recently because a new witness has come forward that had kept the secret for 60 years. And he was forced at that time by the men in black not to say anything. And this is on...
We need to stop just for a moment here because I want people to understand who the men in black are.
Okay. I'm not sure if I can give a brief explanation about it.
Oh, okay.
But pretty much all the stories in the book, in all UFO stories that the government deems top secret or ultra top secret, the men in black show up. They are normally two guys dressed in black identically. Some have said sometimes they even look like twins, and possibly alien hybrids are clones. And they are there to instill fear. They are there to cover any witnesses and warn them beyond a shadow of a doubt that there are serious consequences if they don't shut up and they start talking. And later we can discuss some of the penalties that the men in black have enforced.
Okay, so now people will understand that people didn't come forward for decades for this reason, but now they have, and you have the new information that you're revealing for the first time today on the show.
Yes, and some of the fear also, Robin, in the beginning was if they told even about a sighting, they were ostracized. They lost friends. They had fights in their family, and people labeled them as crazy or just trying to get attention. Now that it's become more mainstream, this fear has disappeared. And also people have their telephones so they can take pictures to back it up so they don't feel like they're looking so stupid.
Oh, that's exciting. And now you've done the research, so let's hear it, Ken.
Well, we found out that, and this was the biggest part of, I thought, of the secret, was that there were actually two ships that crashed at Roswell. One was in Corona, and the other was at a place called the Plains of Augustine. And that was the new one that I uncovered, where this witness who had been in hiding for 60 years finally decided to come out. He's now in a wheelchair and disabled and knows he's going to die soon. His name is Barney Bennett. And they crashed on his land, the second ship, which was 250 miles from the first one. He found the debris and 4 dead aliens. But again, he had been told by the men in black back then to shut up and to never speak of this again. Now back to Corona, which is where the first crash landed. The one thing they found, and this is the biggest thing they tried to cover up besides the second landing, was they found a live alien. He turned out, thank God, to be a friendly alien, and it was discovered he was from an alien race called the Ebens, spelled E-B-E-N. And they come from the same star system as the Greys do, which is the Zeta Reticuli star system. And also, information was divulged when Betty Hill had been abducted by the Greys, and she telepathically was given a map of this star system. And she had never been there before, obviously, and they depicted that, and she was able to draw a complete map system just from them telepathically giving her the message. And this is the area where both the Ebens and the Greys supposedly have come from. It's about 39 light years away. Now, the aliens known as the Ebens, this happened when they crashed on the ranch. It was the Foster Ranch, and they gave the EB1 is what they named him. He started telling them all kinds of information. He first got a hold of a communication device from his ship, so he was able to communicate with his planet. And what he first did was communicate with his planet and found out that they could not send a retrieval team to bring him back. So he was stuck here on Earth. He decided to help us out with technology. And he introduced some major things that later were passed on to private companies to develop. They actually waited 10 years and kept a secret file of all the technology they learned from Roswell. And from that, they passed it out to companies like Boeing and other types of organizations, and they passed it off as this is some stolen Russian information that we obtained, and never referred to it as alien technology. But from that, we got fiber optics, we got circuit chips, we got particle beam devices, Kevlar for bulletproof vests, space defense systems, which Reagan later called Star Wars. And this was all brought by a Lieutenant Philip Caruso, who was at a secret location and just started handing these things out so that these things could be developed.
And is EB1 still on the planet?
No, actually, EB1 died in 1952. So then what the Ebens did is they sent us a replacement. And this occurred in 1953. They sent a clone, which landed at Kingsman. And Kingsman was big-time cover-up because a clone had been found, and they nicknamed him J-Rod. The government denied it, yet they took a bus with 40 top scientists from around the world, shuttled them out on a bus, and blacked out all the windows, and also made them all sign a disclosure they would never talk about this. So why would you send 40 of your top scientists out there unless something, and of course they keep referring to this as just being a weather balloon. And so you don't send 40 top scientists to examine a weather balloon that has crashed.
So go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah. All right, our next visit from the Ebens occurred on April 24th of 1964 when they landed at Socorro. They were supposed to land at Holloman Air Force Base. So they landed there briefly. It was witnessed by a sheriff, and then they took off and headed to Holloman Air Force Base. They had got lost, and being typical alien or male aliens, they never stopped for direction, Robin, and they just got lost.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions here. So the original ship situation, which we understand are two now, that happened in Roswell, was that in 1947?
Yes.
Okay, and so EB1 was around in 1952?
Yes.
Okay.
They were able to, he had a special doctor assigned to him for his care to keep him alive, and he was able to last until 1952.
Okay, and then in 1953, you say that his group called the Ebens, they sent a clone of EB1?
No, I don't think it was a clone. It was never explained what the clone, just that was a clone of the Ebens. And they were known for cloning different races throughout the galaxy. And that's in another story called Serpo, which is the planet they came from. At least that's what we named the planet, Serpo. Its real name is still unknown. There have been variations of that, but that's what we decided to name the planet.
Okay, and then you said something else happened at Kingsman. Is that also in New Mexico?
Kingsman, I believe, is in Arizona.
Arizona, okay.
But I'm not sure. Again, with the different stories, I can't always recall readily, they're all in the same area.
Okay, they're in the United States is basically what you're saying.
Yes, definitely. And it's either New Mexico or Arizona. I'm sorry for not being able to quickly give you where that's at.
Well, that's okay because we are actually coming to the end of the show. So we're going to do our third show also discussing Roswell and the Men in Black. And so I cannot wait to hear more because the only stories I ever heard was that there was one ship and there was a female captor, and she actually has communicated with me for a long time. This EB1, once you mentioned him to me, he started to communicate to me. So anyway, we have a lot to talk about in our next show. So are you on to do another show with me, Ken? Can we bring you back on?
Oh, most certainly, Robin.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to Mystic Radio with Robin Alexis, with my special guest who's so educated about UFOs and extraterrestrials. He's just going to give us all kinds of information, and we look forward to your questions. Ken Sylvester is an expert on this matter. So in the meantime, keep looking up at the sky with us. Let us know if you've been seeing UFOs or you've had contact with extraterrestrials, because we want to have you on the show. We want to speak with you. And a reminder that you can find our books on Amazon. You can find Ken's book by searching We're Not Alone, and Here's the Proof by Ken Sylvester. And my book is A Conversation with Extraterrestrials by Robin Alexis. Both of our books are Amazon bestsellers, and we do look forward to our show next week. Wednesday at noon, we'll be posting the show again. So thank you, and be well.